Well, this is rather surprising. Podcaster Joe Rogan just came out against Donald Trump's deportation plan of sending people to El Salvador without due process. In a recent podcast episode, he stressed how dangerous the precedent that's being set by Trump is, and maybe, just maybe, this is the beginning of Joe Rogan realizing that he was wrong to support Donald Trump. He was wrong to vote for Donald Trump. This clip is around 3 minutes. I'll stop and start when I need to discuss, but let's just dive right in, and it's quite an interesting turn of events for Joe Rogan, who is a big supporter of Donald Trump. Have a look.
About due process. No, fuck that. But here's the problem with fuck that. The problem with things that are going in a radical direction, and then there's an overcorrection. So the overcorrection is lack of due process. The overcorrection is like round them all up, ship them to jail. Like that's like some things that you say when you're not thinking things through. Like, what do you do about all the criminals? Take them all? Fucking send them to El Salvador.
Yeah.
What about due process? No, fuck that. But here's the problem with fuck that. What if you are an enemy of, let's not say any current president. Let's pretend we got a new president, totally new guy in 2028. And this is a common practice now of just rounding up gang members with no due process and shipping them to El Salvador. You're a gang member. No, I'm not. Prove it. What? I got to go to court. No, no due process.
Exactly. That's the precedent that's being set by Donald Trump. Let's just say in 2028, a Democrat comes in, or even a Republican comes in, and they decide that certain people who dislike them or who have ever spoken out against them are now criminals. They're now gang members, and they're subject to deportation regardless of their immigration status, regardless of if they're Americans. Those people can just be sent off according to the precedent that Donald Trump is setting. And look, I ask Trump supporters all the time, what's stopping Trump from deporting you right now? Trump has already deported people to El Salvador without due process, without even finding out if they've committed a crime or if they're here undocumented. And now he's saying that, quote, homegrowns are next. So what happens when Donald Trump deports one of these people who is an American citizen, who has voted for Donald Trump, but maybe criticized him once or twice? That's the precedent that's being set. That's the precedent that Democrats have been warning about for years now. Way before the election, we were saying that if Donald Trump does this, it'll be disastrous for the future of American democracy and the future of the United States. But MAGA didn't listen. And now they're finally, some people like Joe Rogan are finding out that, yeah, this is actually not a great idea and due process is incredibly important. Let's continue.
That's
Right?
dangerous, Joe.
That's dangerous.
dangerous.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous. We got to be careful that we don't become monsters while we're fighting monsters. I think due process exists for a reason, and the reason is it is horrific for someone to be accused of something they didn't do, be imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit, and then live in a cell, live in a cage with a bunch of
People who did commit shit.
Here it is, Benjamin Franklin. It's better 100 guilty persons should escape than one innocent person should suffer. That is wisdom.
Yeah.
That has survived hundreds of years. It's incredibly accurate, and it is the foundation of freedom. Like, we have to make sure that these people are actually guilty, otherwise we become monsters. You can't...
Right, exactly. And what Joe Rogan is saying right here is that Donald Trump and his current administration with their deportation strategy have become monsters. They're just deporting people without due process. These people are not getting a court hearing. They're not going in front of a judge. They're not hearing the claims levied against them by the government, and they're not getting the ability to present a defense. We have no idea if these people in question have committed the crimes that are being alleged or not. And we actually have data from different news publications that says that the overwhelming majority of the people sent to El Salvador do not have criminal records. Some of them are soccer players. Some of them are hairdressers. Some of them are people who worked with children with disabilities. And Donald Trump just picked them off the street, disappeared them, sent them to El Salvador with no due process. And MAGA, for the most part, aside from the few dissenters that we're seeing like Joe Rogan, have become the party of no due process. Just guilty before they're innocent, according to so many people, especially the president of the United States right now. Let's continue.
Like, what is that? When you fight monsters, be careful that you don't become one.
Become one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very important. It's very important. You know, you can't do that. You know, it's one of those things where to support one side of this, you have to deny some, like, basic human values. Either way. Like, to support just rounding people up and just assuming they're all gang members. I'm not saying they're doing that, but this is the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
They get a bunch of people in a room, they rope them all in, and one guy's just someone's cousin picking someone up to give him a ride home. That's possible.
And now you're back on the one innocent person now you're right back.
And what
with
if that dude is not doing anything wrong and he's got some stupid tattoos and they decide that this guy's a gang member and now you're in a prison in El Salvador and you're not even from El Salvador. And now, you were just a hairdresser or you were a tattoo artist or
Family
whatever
man,
you are.
yeah.
You came over here and maybe you got a green card and maybe you don't. Maybe you were just given asylum because a lot of people from Venezuela were given asylum in America.
Yeah.
And then you get shipped to El Salvador where you're not even from El Salvador. So that the fact that exists scares the shit out of me.
And I just want to be clear for Joe Rogan, it exists because of Donald Trump. This is not something that we've seen ever before in American history, or at least modern American history, where people are just being rounded up, being accused of being gang members, sent to El Salvador with no due process, no ability to go to a judge. This has not happened. This wasn't done by Obama, Biden, Clinton, Bush, Reagan. Didn't happen. This is Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump continuing his dictatorial tendencies. And maybe Joe Rogan is finally realizing that, wow, this is completely unsustainable for a country. Just sending people away without due process, not even questioning what they've done, is not sustainable. It's not right for a country. And that's the entire debate surrounding Abrego Garcia, the man in question, the man that's been in the news recently, and a topic of fierce debate from both Republicans and Democrats. The Democrats are not saying that Abrego Garcia is a perfect individual and we want everybody to come into the country. What we're saying is that people like Abrego Garcia deserve due process. Let's give him due process. If Donald Trump is so confident in the claims that he's made against this man, why can't he bring him to court and prove his claims in front of a jury? Donald Trump knows he can't, and that's why he's keeping Abrego Garcia in El Salvador. He's defying courts, saying you have to bring him back. And let's just be clear that what we're talking about is not just Abrego Garcia. It's not just one man. It's not just a couple people being sent to El Salvador. It's happening now with hundreds of people being sent to El Salvador, but also American citizens being detained here in the United States. Let me show you this article that came out just the other day regarding a U.S. citizen who was detained in Arizona for 10 days. 10 days. 19 years old, Jose Hermosillo, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly, who is visiting Tucson from Albuquerque, says he was lost walking near the Border Patrol headquarters when an agent arrested him for illegally entering the country. He was not carrying any identification at the time. Court documents say a Border Patrol agent arrested him at or near Arizona without proper immigration documents, and that Hermosillo admitted to illegally entering the United States. Hermosillo and his girlfriend, who have a 9-month-old child together, live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and are visiting family in Tucson. He says he's never been to this location in Arizona. His girlfriend's aunt, Grace Leyva, says she and her family made numerous calls looking for him before they found out he was being detained in the Florence Correctional Center, which Immigration and Customs Enforcement use to detain people. Another family member drove to the detention center about 70 miles northwest of Tucson, but said officials wouldn't provide any information or release him. ICE did not, of course, respond to a request for comment about the wrongful detention. Now, eventually, a magistrate judge in Tucson dismissed his case on Thursday, and family says he was released much later in that night. And there have, of course, been other cases. But the family later provided ICE and the judge and the legal system there documents such as his birth certificate and social security card proving that he is an American citizen. He was born here, and they didn't care. They detained him just because they thought he was undocumented. It is absolutely insane what's happening in this country. It's absolutely remarkable that MAGA is standing by this authoritarian behavior, standing by these dictatorial tendencies of Donald Trump and applauding. So truly, I'm glad that people like Joe Rogan, who have supported Donald Trump in the past, have spoken very favorably about Donald Trump in the past, have come to their senses a little bit, especially on this very important topic, and are using their platform to condemn it. Look, if Joe Rogan's going to use his massive podcast platform to push back on an initiative that Donald Trump is pushing forward, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to let him do it. So anyway, I will leave the video there. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. Make sure to subscribe down below. It goes an incredibly long way. I really appreciate it. Also, drop a like on the video and comment. Let me know what you think about this story. And as always, I greatly appreciate you. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and we will talk soon.